Hello, hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have game number 2 between Twitter and GREE from the After Hours Gaming League. This is from the League A, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this game. Right now we are currently leading with Twitter 1-0 against GREE. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in and introduce these players. You three. Spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of Acheron Waste, we have the red Zerg player representing Team GREE. It is going to be GREE's SushiSlayer. He's currently 2-4 in the After Hours Gaming League, currently 1-1 in Zerg versus Protoss, and he just seems to love his Speedling defense and his Hydra Roach aggression later on in Zerg versus Protoss. We'll have to see if he decides to go for that again against his opponent. Spawning up here in the bottom left right-hand corner of Acheron Waste is the blue Protoss player. Is going to be representing Team Twitter. Is going to be Twitter's NVictus, and he is the Protoss player who's currently 3-1 in the After Hours Gaming League, 1-1 in Protoss versus Zerg. So I guess there's Protoss versus Zerg / Zerg versus Protoss scores are pretty much the same. We'll have to wait and see how well this is going to end up working out. It looks like in the meanwhile we do see NVictus going for that. Probably going to be a Forge Fast expand. I can't imagine anything but that. Maybe a Gateway expand, but that's a really wide ramp to try and wall off with just Gateway and such. So probably going to be seeing a Forge Fast expand in the meanwhile. Spawning pool going down for SushiSlayer. We actually might be seeing a Nexus first out of NVictus. This is going to be a bit of a greedy play, so going to have to wait and see how well this ends up working out, as I mean, this Overlord should be able to get there before the actual Forge does end up going down. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not SushiSlayer decides to just go all in. I know that when I play Zerg and I see a Protoss player go for a Nexus first, I'm just like, I'm all in. Pull all of my drones, get out like 6 Zerglings, just go for it. I can totally just kill him right now. And there we do end up seeing that Forge going down. The Overlord should be making its way and kind of say, hey, you know what, that Forge is awfully late. That's kind of strange, don't you think? Maybe we should go ahead and just do something about that. Or he could just decide to play it super duper normal and standard. He is going for a rather early extractor, so we could actually be seeing some kind of Roach all-in coming out of our Zerg player, and it's definitely a possibility. Or this could just be a bit of a Speedling opening just to try and put on a little bit of aggression, since he did see that the Forge was rather late. He knows that the cannon is not going to be down for just a little bit, but of course that cannon is going to be on its way to completion. 2 Zerglings already out, going to be killing off that pesky little probe and stopping him from really doing any kind of cannon shenanigans over at the natural expansion or the third base of the Zerg player. Now the Zerg actually has multiple opportunities for a third base over here. You can actually take this third, which does make a little bit of sense, but you have to knock down these destructible rocks. So it can be a little bit difficult. It looks like that's actually what he wants to do. So instead he's going to just send his drone all the way around this path over here. It's going to be a little bit harder to defend, but if he gets up some units, he can take out the destructible rocks. On the other hand, you could also take this third. It's a little bit more wide open, but it is a little bit easier to defend without getting out a lot of those early units. Now, one thing I want to come back and touch upon is the fact that he did go for this early gas, and now he does have exactly 104 gas, so he has enough for Zergling speed. And there we do end up seeing it starting to be researched. Can actually put on a little bit of extra pressure with that, as I mean, you don't tend to see early Zergling speed this often in the matchup. So hopefully he does decide to do something a little bit useful with that Zergling speed, especially since, I mean, if you think about it, Protoss, especially one that's committed to this Nexus firsting, is going to have a hard time putting out a whole lot of aggression, besides maybe moving out with his first Zealot or 2. So I mean, really, what do you need the Zergling speed for? Just to deal with this first early Zealot? I mean, you could save an early drone, save those 3 drones that were mining the gas for a while. So you better do something with it, is all I'm trying to say. Regardless, he is going to be scouting around with his initial Zergling, just kind of looking around for any kind of pesky probes that could be planting down some sort of proxy pylons. It looks like Twitter's NVictus actually scouting around down here for a potential third, and he sees, hey, you know what, there's no third over there, maybe the third is over here. He's going to go ahead and rally it over, and that is actually going to be the money location. He's going to find out that the expansion is over there. He's going to move out with his Zealot and his Stalker now. It looks like he's just going to be probably making a sentry after this just to defend his home turf. and just putting on a little bit of aggression over here. Now we do end up seeing a couple more Zerglings streaming their way down. He's going to need a couple more Zerglings than that actually to deal any damage to this Zealot and Stalker combination, as this Zealot should actually be able to take out all of those units quite easily, as a couple of more Zerglings do make their way over in, and it looks like the Zealot and Stalker are pretty much trapped. The Stalker is probably going to be going down, especially against speed Zerglings, as it looks like Twitter's NVictus did not really expect those speed Zerglings. Some really nice Zergling micro manages to take out the Zealot almost. No, just barely not able to take out the Zealot. He's going to have to make a couple more Zerglings, but he has already made those. Probably going to be useful anyways for scouting purposes. And yeah, that's going to work out pretty well. Actually, we do have an interesting proxy pylon location already set up from Twitter's NVictus. Looks like he's already gone for 4 gateways. It's going to be kind of a Wings of Liberty-esque style build. Just getting out 4 gateways, doing some light early aggression, going to be warping in 4 Zealots actually, and we'll have to wait and see how much damage they're able to do, as all those Zerglings are actually on the opposite side of the map. This Mothership Core being super duper early aggressive, and he's going to try and meet his way up with these Zealots. That's going to allow him to do some recall action if he can get there in time with that Mothership Core, but the Mothership Core is still a ways off, and these Zealots are starting to take a lot of damage. We do end up seeing another warp-in round of these Zealots, and then Proxy Pylon is going down straight outside of the 3rd base of the Zerg. Now remember, this is not an all-in by any means. He is only really committed with 4 of these gateways. Now he could still do a ton of damage, especially with these +1 Zealots against the 0 armor Zerg forces. And oh my god, is he just trying to wall this off? Oh my god, I think he might actually just try and wall this off and go for it with these 2 Zealots. This is going to be a really fantastic play from Twitter's NVictus. I almost said Twitter's GREE. That is not true at all. We do see a couple of roaches out from SushiSlayer, so he's going to be able to do a lot of damage to these Zealots now, as these Zealots are just going to be able to be kited constantly back and forth, especially as long as they are on the creep. But the 3rd expansion does go down, so things are looking rather a bit grim for Team GREE. There is a little bit of a hole in this little pylon wall off. I think that might have been intentional for NVictus. I think it actually might have worked out well if he just walled it off completely, but it looks like he didn't decide to go for that. Now these sentries are going to be very vulnerable. The Mothership Core is being very useful, but it looks like 1 additional sentry falls before he's able to just teleport back to the safety of his home turf with those 2 other sentries. The Zealots and the Pylons will end up going down, but again, the damage was done. He was able to take out that 3rd expansion. That's going to put SushiSlayer into a feeling that he thinks that he has to go into an all-in situation. Oh my god, what is this? A Warp Prism actually going to be making its way over to the natural expansion. This could actually seriously devastate the Zerg player if he just warps in a couple of those Zealots. And oh my god, there's no wall off actually already over here for Twitter's NVictus, and he does manage to get a force field down really well timed actually. Managed to take out most of those Zerglings without really losing a whole lot of those sentries. Does manage to pick off one of those buildings though, so now the rest of his units can stream in, and those roaches and Zerglings are being very cost effective, especially considering there's only 2 sentries and an immortal out now. So this is working out pretty well for SushiSlayer, but that Mothership Core is actually putting a timing on how long this push can last, just because there's an air unit out on the map and additional reinforcements are going to be streaming in. This Immortal up to 12 kills, going to continue to rack them up to 13 now, and might even get a 14th one over here now. Does not manage to get it, but still a really great pickup and just clean up from that Protoss force, and that Zerg force really just didn't have a chance. And here's what I was saying: you have to be careful of that Warp Prism harassment, but it looks like part of the reason why SushiSlayer did not have constant reinforcements is just because he was leaving those reinforcements over at home to try and defend against anything. Let's take a look at the workers kill tab. No workers really killed, as we saw that Warp Prism really was not able to do a whole lot of damage. Most of the tech structures pretty much intact. We don't actually see a lair out though, and that is really just super telling of the position that SushiSlayer is in. He's super behind. He does not have his 3rd expansion, does not even have a lair out, can't get his roach speed research out, and he is just going to be in such a rough position. And now we do end up seeing the attempt at a re-wall off over here from NVictus, but does he have any sentries out? Yeah, he does have the sentries out. He should be able to send force field out all of the roaches, beautifully timed over there, and even with the Colossus, how he's going to be able to take out all of those Zerglings very quickly. He's managed to snag a couple of roaches as well, and this is going to be a very grim aggression from SushiSlayer. What does he really do at this point? I mean, Is he going to try and push in against a Colossus and an Immortal and a bunch of these sentries? It looks like no additional force shields left over, so he's able to actually get right in on top of those sentries, but now we end up seeing that Photon Overcharge being used on that Nexus. Going to be super effective against all these roaches, especially if you manage to keep this Colossus alive. This Colossus sitting at 15 kills, even managed to make its way over to the high ground where there is no vision. A second Colossus joining the fray, +1/+1, already finished researching against the +0/+0 of Team GREE, and oh my god, I just don't know what the Zerg player can do in this situation. It is going to be so difficult. He's going to try and reestablish his third base. He's going to try and finally take out these rocks. This is something that needed to be done quite a while ago, but he was just under so much pressure early on that he was just not able to devote the units to actually take out those rocks. Finally, now that he's able to do it, it looks like he's going to get a little bit of breathing room, but at the same time, NVictus is going to use his own breathing room to add on additional gateways and maybe just go for a big final push off of maybe a third Colossus. And do we actually have Thermal Lance finished researching? Yes, Thermal Lance is finished researching. We actually have the Gravitic boosters. That's the observer speed, not something that you see every day being researched. And I guess he wants to be prepared for something like Swarm Host or maybe even just, I guess, Roach Burrow. But I mean, we can see that really Lair is not even finished researching. So as long as he hits a nice little timing around 16-17 minutes, he should actually be quite a-okay and be able to do a ton of damage, especially considering he has a good number of gateways out. He has his third up and established. He's even going to have cannons defending his third over here. So I mean, Twitter's player is going to be sitting in a very comfortable position. Now we do end up seeing these rocks knocked down. Now these rocks really just more defensive rocks. They will drop these destructible rocks and make it a complete wall off. Could actually move around with his units now. Probably wants to move them into a position to defend his natural expansion, I suppose, against any kind of aggression that could come out. But at the same time, he does have to be wary of the fact that there was a Warp Prism that did get out, was never killed off, and still sitting over here with 4 Zealots just loaded up over that Xel'Naga Watchtower. Could actually drop one of those Zealots, get a little bit of vision out on that Xel'Naga Watchtower. It doesn't look like he's going to opt to do it. A little bit preoccupied with a couple other things. Just going to be making some of those Colossus, getting up that big Death Ball army that Protosses love to get. In the meanwhile, we do end up seeing these roaches scouting out, finding that proxy pollen. They're going to be able to take that out quite easily. And in the meanwhile, that's actually going to trigger a reaction. NVictus, remembering he has that Warp Prism out over there, so he's going to go ahead and send it out at the same time as he sends out his entire army. And now we end up seeing these Colossus. They are under fire from those Zerglings, but is that really the case, or are the Zerglings under fire for the Colossus? I think it's more of the latter, and now we're going to end up seeing those Zealots from that Warp Prism dropping into the middle line, where again, they have +1 weapons against these 0 upgrades of those Zerglings, so the Zerglings are going to be taken out very quickly, drawing back the forces of all those roaches, as well as a single Zealot is going to be able to make his way into that third expansion. And now we end up seeing the Macro Hatchery able to be taken out. Quite a few force fields are going to be very much available for this big engagement, and these Colossus just making short work of all of those roaches. Now we do end up seeing Spire Tech transition has been completed. He has a couple of Mutalisks, and they're going to be trying to go in around for a flanking position. Time Warp actually being utilized. It looks like Twitter's NVictus did not get the memo. Time Warp does not work on air units, but all of these Mutalisks are going to be picked off without really being able to snipe off any of those Colossus. The natural expansion has been taken out. The third expansion is going to be taken out very soon, and a couple of more Mutalisks are going to be popping out. So maybe he's just hoping if I can get enough Mutalisks, maybe I can just try and take out this Death Ball army. I know that Mutalisks have been super duper effective against Protoss armies in very large numbers, but I just don't think he can get the large enough numbers he needs to deal with this army, especially against this huge soccer count and basically working against the upgrade count. Now we do end up seeing Stalkers are going to be engaging against these Mutalisks. These Mutalisks are getting picked off very quickly. It looks like pretty much every tech except for the Roach one, the Spawning Pool, and the Spire has been taken out. And it's going to be very difficult. He's not going to really have any reinforcing units. Now it looks like the player from Team GREE does not have a hatchery anymore, as these drones are just in complete puzzlement about where they should mine. They're going to just go ahead and A-move into the Stalker Colossus force. Drones not super effective against Colossus, and neither are Mutalisks against Stalkers. And there we end up seeing bases not been rebuilt, so he's going to be revealed. But that is going to call out a GG from SushiSlayer. So Team Twitter taking another game in this series and bringing it up to 2-0 in their favor. They only need to win one more game against Team GREE to try and just bring the entire series into their favor. We'll have to wait and see if Team GREE can make some sort of miracle all-kill, reverse all-kill, I should say, happen, and it's going to be very, very difficult, but you know what? I believe in them, and now we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 3. There's only one way to find out who's going to win it, so I will see you guys there.